Ooh, this cake is so nice. That's a nice cake, huh? It's nice. It's so nice. Darling, come here quickly. Babes, this is a nice party, hey? It's very nice. Oh, you did such a good job. Where did you buy this cake? You made it. When? You baked this cake. You baked it yourself. No, I don't know. Wait. Wait. You baked this.
I'm gonna try. Work till I die. I'm gonna fail and get up, 'cause I'm not giving up on my dream.
Hey beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kopane and this is how I do things. The show where you send me your questions and I'll let you know how I would do things. Now I can take it as advice or use it as entertainment. Use it, don't use it. Take it, don't take it. Listen, do what you will with it. I'm just letting you know what I would do if I was in your shoes. I'm eating cake, darling. Cake. I'm a lover of cake. I love cakes. I love baking cakes. They are absolutely delicious. But before I get carried away with this cake, let me put it down. Now, hands up if you don't know how to bake. Sminaiza, not actually the best at baking. You're probably just like, what do you mean? You bake all the time. Here's the secret to baking. It's not about knowing how to bake, it's about knowing how to follow instructions. So this week, after all the questions you have sent about what goes on in my kitchen, what I eat, how I eat it, how I cook it, what I bake, what smoothies I make, I'm starting off with a easy, beautiful, delicious, delectable, divine vanilla cake. Now, if you have any questions that you want to send to me, more about food, about life, about being a woman, whatever it is that you want to hear about, head over to my Instagram and look for this picture right here. It's in my Insta story highlights. All you have to do is go to @Kopane, look for this picture on my Insta story highlights on the little lavender circle that says how I do things. Reply and let me know what question you want me to answer in our next video. Now we're expanding everything, anything that you want to talk about as a woman. I'll do my research, I'll send out my detectives, I'll trial it myself and let you know what I would do if I was in your shoes. Now, if you have not subscribed to my channel, head over and subscribe because it's completely free. And you also want to press the notification bell because every single day at 7:30, we do a live premiere of a brand new video. And we're there chatting up a storm in the live chat. So join us and be there to have fun in the mornings. So step one that I always like to do when I'm baking a cake is to start with the icing. I've always noticed when you're using butter for your icing, if you're not going to be using a fondant or you're going to be using flour to make whatever frosting or whatever icing you're going to put on top, if you're going to use butter, you do want to do this in advance and leave it in the fridge. So this is a cream cheese icing that I've made and it always comes out amazing. It is easy to make. Make it right before you start making the cake and put it in the fridge so it forms beautifully and it's easy for you to layer your cake when you are done. So what you're going to need for this is 250 grams of butter, unsalted butter. If you can find the white one, it makes so much difference, along with 250 grams of cream cheese. You're going to mix this with 4 cups of icing sugar and 2 teaspoons of vanilla essence or vanilla extract. If you can find the clear one as well, this will make sure that your icing is nice and soft and white. So you're going to first start off by softening your unsalted butter. Once it's nice and soft, you're going to then go on and add your cream cheese. Mix those together and make sure you have 0 lumps. If you can use a whisk for this, go ahead. You do not need an electric whisk if you don't have it. If you don't have it, just use a wooden spoon and then move over to your whisk once the butter and the cream cheese are mixed together and they are soft. Next, you're going to put in your 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and finally you're going to add your 4 cups of icing sugar. I like to add the first half, mix it together, and once that's nice and smooth, then I whisk in the last 2 cups and make sure that I have 0 lumps in my icing. Once it's nice and smooth and you are happy with it, you can pop it in the fridge. By the time you need it for your cake, it will be nice and firm, it won't fall off, and it will make the frosting process so much easier. Step number 2 is that we're going to look for the right recipe for the cake. Remember, I told you that baking is not about knowing how to add the ingredients and all of those things from the top of your head. No, honey. Find a good recipe and follow it step by step. Now, I love Sally's Baking Addiction. This cake has never failed me. It is absolutely beautiful. It is soft and it is very easy to make. And if you don't have an electric whisk, you don't need it. So I'll leave the link in the description below for you to get your recipe of Sally's Baking Addiction. We move over to step number 3, which is to lay out all of your ingredients ahead of time. I do this even though it makes a whole lot of dishes. This makes it easier for me not to forget any of the ingredients that go into the cake. It becomes so easy for you to add too much of this or add too little of that, or to forget an ingredient altogether because you didn't weigh out and leave everything out ahead of time. So for this one, according to Sally's Baking Addiction, we're going to need 2 2³ cups of cake flour, 1 teaspoon salt, 1 teaspoon baking powder, 3/4 teaspoon baking soda, 1½ cups of unsalted butter softened to room temperature. I like to put this in the bowl and leave it to the side, which makes it easy for it to become softened. And I like to soften it ahead of time so that by the time I start using it, it's all soft and I don't have to beat it or work with cold butter. 2 cups of granulated sugar. I always use less sugar than is actually needed from me, so I usually use about 1.5 cups. I'm not too high on the sugar, so if you can decrease the sugar, that's always good. Then you're going to need 3 large eggs plus 2 additional egg whites. A lot of people with white cakes or any vanilla cakes, they like to use only egg white, but this can sometimes mean that you overbeat the eggs or underbeat the eggs, but the egg yolk actually gives it a little bit of that firmness that you need. So stick to the instructions of using 3 large eggs, whole large eggs, and 2 additional egg whites, 1 tablespoon of pure vanilla extract, and 1½ cups of buttermilk. Now the secret to this ingredient is actually the buttermilk. So some people may use normal milk, but the buttermilk gives it a little bit of that sourness that makes it really, really good and gives it a little bit of that creaminess. So trust me, get the buttermilk in this ingredient. It is completely worth it. And like I said, you actually don't need an electric whisk or anything extra for this. If you have a normal wooden spoon as well as a normal handheld whisk, you're good to go. So this recipe is going to need 2 big bowls. In the one bowl, I have already softened the butter and I'm going to put that to the side. And in the other, I have whisked in my flour. So now that everything is measured out and laid out, I put everything away and I'm ready to mix in what I need to bake my cake. So step number 4 is to switch on the oven. You always want to preheat your oven at 177 degrees Celsius or 350 Fahrenheit. Next, you're going to need to prepare your baking pans. You can use 2 24cm baking pans or 3 15cm baking pans, depending on how wide and how tall you want your cake to be. If you want it to be tall, use your smaller baking pans and you need 3 of them. And if you want it to be nice and flat, you're only going to need 2 of those to make it a nice wide cake. So I'm going to put on some butter on the edges. Now, if you do not have a baking spray, take a little bit of the butter and pour it or wipe it on the sides of the pan and use a baking sheet at the bottom of your pan to make sure that the cake does not stick to the bottom. Then finally, step number 5 is to mix and pop into the oven. So what you're going to do is you're going to start with your dry ingredients. So you're going to take your flour, your baking soda, your baking powder, and your salt, put those together and whisk to make sure they're nicely mixed. You're going to put that to the side. In your bigger bowl, you're going to take your butter, you're going to soften it and add some sugar. You're going to take your whisk, either handheld or electric, and at a fast pace you're going to whisk the sugar and the butter together to make sure that they're nicely combined. When you whisk butter, you'll start to notice that yellow butter turns white and it starts to turn a little creamy, and that's what you want. But remember, we do not want to overmix, so stick to about 2 to 3 minutes of time. Once that is mixed all together, you're going to add your 2 egg whites and your 3 whole eggs and beat those together for another 2 minutes. So you want to make sure that you're always scraping on the sides to make sure that anything that's left on the sides is still in the bowl. Once you finish whisking in your eggs, you're then going to start putting in your flour or your dry ingredients into the one big bowl. Continue to mix into the bowl until it is all nicely mixed together. Once you're done with this, you're then going to start adding in the buttermilk. As usual, I like to add half of the buttermilk, mix it in. Once it's nice and smooth, I mix the rest of it into the bowl, and I'll make sure that I'm not overdoing it. So you want to kind of fold it in and not beat it in, because if you beat it in, then you're going to start over beating the mixture. Once this is all done, you're going to take your mixture and divide it equally into your pans. Whether 2 or 3 pans is up to you. Once you've done that, you're going to pop it into the oven that you have preheated, and you're going to leave it for about 25 to 30 minutes. Once you think it is ready, and once it has risen and it's popped at the top, you're going to stick a knife or a skewer in just to make sure that there is no dough on the knife or the skewer. If there's none, then you move on and your cake is baked. Now that your cake is all baked, it is time for you to let it cool and assemble. Step number 6 is to remove the cakes out of the oven. Leave them on a baking rack so that they can cool off. So before you pop them out of the tray, you want to remove them from the oven and leave them to cool off. Once they have cooled off for about 30 minutes, you can take them out of the pans and leave them upside down. This will make sure that that little dome on the top flattens out a little bit, making it a little easier for you to stack the cakes on top. After about an hour, the cakes would have cooled off completely, and this is now time for you to take your icing out of the fridge and to stack your cake on top of each other. What I like to do is put the bottom cake on a normal plate or a cake plate, and then take half of the icing and put it on top. Now, if you don't have a spoon or the right tool to lay out your icing, all you need to do is take the back of a butter knife. It's nice and long and it is nice and smooth. You take a spoon, scoop out all the icing you need, put it on top of the cake and lay it out flat, spreading it across the one layer. You then take your butter knife or your bread knife and you move it across, and you then flatten out the icing. Once you're done flattening out the first level, you're going to put the second cake on top, take the rest of the icing with a spoon, and then take your butter knife to smooth it out. This is where the artistic side comes out, and you can smooth it out as much as you want. Sometimes I like to have a semi-naked cake, meaning that you can see the sides of the cake, making it a little bit easier for you to spread out the icing. Or you can have it nice and thick on the sides, depending how you want it to be. If you really want a pattern, it's very hard to make a very smooth cake, but it's easy to make a nice pattern. And this is where you can then use the icing to make the pattern. As you continue to move the icing around, you'll start to see that it melts a little and becomes easy for you to move it and shape the cake whichever way you want to. You can shape it whichever way you want to using the butter knife or the bread knife to make it flat and smooth, or using the back of a spoon to give it nice little peaks and little swirls all around the cake. So the cake has been in the oven, no, not in the oven, in the fridge overnight, and it looks delicious. It looks so amazing. So baking a cake the night before, letting it rest overnight in the fridge, or baking it in the morning, letting it rest during the afternoon and having it in the evening, really nice. I like to let my cake chill for a little while, at least for 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours. By the time you cut it, it is nice and firm, it is not falling over, and it's a beautiful cake. So let the cake chill, wash up everything that you've been using, and then once it's time to sit down and relax, your cake is ready for you to enjoy. That's it. That's how you make a vanilla cake. It's all about following the instructions. Now remember, I've left the link down in the description below. If you guys want to see more of my kitchen antics, then please do let me know in the comment section down below. I'm not afraid to cook for you. I'll cook for you. But that's all I have for you today on how I do things. Until next time, beautiful people, I'm Kopane Shimange, and this is How I Do Things. It is time for me to go enjoy my cake. So if you have not subscribed to my channel, please hit the subscribe button over here and you'll be subscribed, and feel free to watch as many videos as you want to. Head over to my website www.kopaneshimange.com to get my free resources. But until next time, gorgeous, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.